Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Another remastered edition, and boy, do we got a remastered edition for you the next 4 episodes. It's actually a very special episode here, guys, for anybody listening on podcast and has been listening on podcast. This is our officially 200th episode we are doing right now. Number
That's it?
200. That's it. That's 4 years. Number 200.
Would have been more if we would have kept on doing week by week. Or you adding everything together.
I don't know. This is our literal 200th episode put out regardless of what we've done.
Of everything.
Of everything.
Oh,
It's 200 officially on the podcast version, and if you're listening on YouTube, it's like 193 because some of those part ones and part twos, they got consolidated into one. So technically, we're at 200 published podcast episodes, 193 or something on YouTube, but whatever. So yeah, we're going to start back to our most popular probably episode we've ever done.
our highest growth show.
Wyatt Earp. We're going to cover, just like we did last time, it is remastered, so just like we did last time, his early life up into going to Tombstone, and then part 2 will be the OK Corral, and part 3 will be the Vendetta ride, and then part 4 will be after the Vendetta ride, and then his later life going to Hollywood and all that shit. So
And his fight with the aliens.
Well, you did an Alien movie? I'm surprised they didn't. Why didn't they do that? Like Wyatt Earp versus like the Alien versus
Right.
Cowboys versus Aliens or something. They should have had a Wyatt Earp like guy doing that.
Come on, they did Abraham Lincoln as a vampire
That's what I'm
killer.
saying. That would have been great, actually. There's still time, guys.
Right.
Yeah, everybody knows about Wyatt Earp. OK Corral, like I said, Vendetta ride. He was also a buffalo hunter, a car dealer, a stagecoach driver, a saloon owner, and he also was accused as a pimp.
A little pimp.
Pimp on a riverboat in Missouri or something like that, Mississippi River. We'll get to that in this episode, actually. And yeah, if you guys don't know, everybody knows about the OK Corral, but I'm sure a lot of people don't know about his early life growing up, trying to join the Civil War and
At like, what, 12 or something?
at 13 or some shit like that. Yeah, but we'll go through it just like we always do. Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp. He was born March 19th, 1848. He was the 4th child of Nicholas Porter Earp and Nicholas's second wife, Virginia Ann Cooksey. He was named after his father's commanding officer in the Mexican-American War, who was Captain Wyatt Barry Stapp. He was with the 2nd Company Illinois Mounted Volunteers. Some evidence supports Wyatt Earp's birthplace as 406 South 3rd Street in Monmouth, Illinois, though the street address is disputed by Monmouth College professor and historian William Urban.
You know, there always is some
Always historian doing something. Oh, Wyatt had 7 full-time siblings. They were all full-time. James, Virgil, Martha, Morgan, Baxter, Warren, Virginia, and Adelia. He had an elder half-brother named Newton from his father's first marriage.
Fantastic.
Nobody knows about Newton. What did Newton do?
Newton probably stayed with his mom.
Newton, he was a pioneer, born in Kentucky in 1837. He was a Union Army during the Civil War, served as part of the 4th Iowa Cavalry. Got to corporal.
Damn, this dude was 91. Holy shit.
He lost an election for constable. He moved to Kansas. He was a farmer and a settler. He became marshal of a town in Garden City. And then he hunted buffalo. So he was a Wyatt Earp, but not as famous.
Wow.
Good for him. And he died in 1929. Only Wyatt and his sister Adelia survived him. So he's one of the oldest ones, huh?
Look at that shit.
Oh, Wyatt died just a month after him,
Wow.
1929.
Damn.
Oh, all right, cool. Well, look at Newton.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, we're going to go to March in 1849, or it could have been early January of 1850 or February or whatever. Damn, a whole year later.
Right.
Nicholas Earp, he joined about 100 other people in a plan to relocate to San Bernardino County, California, where he was intended to be a farmer and buy some farmland there. Just about 150 miles west of Monmouth on the journey, their daughter, Martha, became sick.
Gotta stop.
Family stopped. Nicholas bought a new 160-acre farm. Damn, you're sick? Well, let's buy these 160 acres.
Might as well. Can't travel with her.
Right. So he bought a new 160-acre farm about 7 miles northeast of Pella, Iowa. Martha died there on May 26, 1856. Oh, damn. Made it 6.
Well, she was 6 years.
7
Sounds
years.
good for her, huh? Well, Nicholas and Virginia Earp's last child, Adelia, was born June 1861 in Pella. Newton, James, and Virgil joined the Union Army November 11, 1861. Their father was busy recruiting and drilling local companies, so Wyatt and his two younger brothers, Morgan and Warren, were left in charge of tending 80 acres of corn.
Damn.
Well, their dad drilled like Union Army companies and stuff.
Yeah,
Good for him, huh?
shit.
Well, Wyatt was only 13 years old, which is too young to enlist, but he tried on several occasions to run away and join the army. Each time, his father found him and brought him home.
Wow.
James, he was severely wounded in Frederickstown, Missouri, and returned home summer of 1863. If you ever seen Wyatt Earp, the movie, he's trying to run through the cornfield, and his dad pulls up on his horse. I don't think so, son.
Right. Nicholas Earp organized a wagon train and headed to San Bernardino.
Bernardino.
Yep, California. Arriving on the 17th of December. Along the way, Wyatt was given his first weapon, a combination shotgun rifle. He did that to help protect the family against attacking Indians. He got to back then. Young Wyatt soon acquired a six-shooter and practiced every day, becoming a deadly marksman.
Yeah, was he, though?
Newton and Virgil fought several battles in the East and later followed the family to California. By late summer 1865, after the war, Virgil found work as a driver for Phineas Banning's stagecoach line in California's Imperial Valley. 16-year-old Wyatt, he assisted his brother. Spring 1866. Wyatt became a teamster transporting cargo for Chris Taylor. Nice. From 1866 to 1868, he drove cargo for over 720 miles on a wagon road from Wilmington through San Bernardino, then Las Vegas, then to Salt Lake City. And that seems
Which
about
is
it.
Utah territory at this time. In the spring of 68, Earp was hired to transport supplies needed to build the Union Pacific Railroad. Also in that spring, the Earps moved east again to Lamar, Missouri.
Man, they'd be going far.
Right, where Wyatt's father, Nicholas, became the local constable. Wyatt rejoined the family the next year. He then learned gambling and boxing while working on the railhead in the Wyoming territory. I forgot to tell you, he was a boxing referee, too. He developed a reputation for officiating boxing matches and refereed a fight between John Chansey and Professor Mike Donovan.
Oh, cool.
Why did they call him Professor? Which was July 4th, 1869 in Cheyenne, Wyoming, in front of 3,000 spectators.
Damn.
Nicholas resigned as constable November 17th, 1869 to become the Justice of the Peace, and Wyatt was appointed constable in his place.
Fantastic.
So this is 69, and he was born in
48.
48, so he's 21 years old and a constable. Wow.
In late 1869, Earp courted 20-year-old Aurilla Sutherland, daughter of William and Permelia Sutherland, who operated an exchange hotel in Lamar. They were married by Earp's father on the 10th of January, 1870, because Earp's father is Justice of the Peace.
Right.
Wyatt bought a land on the outskirts of town for $50, where he built a house in August of 1870. However, their time together was brief, when Aurilla died within a year of their marriage. Historical facts vary as to the cause of her death. Some say she died in childbirth, while others indicated that she died of typhoid fever.
I would say typhoid fever because Wyatt Earp didn't have a kid,
Yeah.
unless the kid died in childbirth as well.
Right. November 1870, Earp sold the lot and the house for $75. He ran against his elder half-brother Newton for the office of constable and won by 137 votes to Newton's 108. But their father lost the election for Justice of the Peace in a very close four-way race.
In the movie Wyatt Earp, they show him burning down his house and shit like that. It never happened, guys. Don't believe movies.
Right.
Well, Earp went through a downward spiral after Aurilla's death, and he had a series of legal problems.
I bet he did.
March 14th, 1871, in Barton County, Missouri, they filed a lawsuit against him and his sureties.
Oh.
He was in charge of collecting license fees for Lamar, which funded local schools, and he was accused of failing to turn them in.
Oh, no.
March 31st, James Cromwell filed a lawsuit against him, alleging that he had falsified court documents concerning the amount of money that Earp had collected from Cromwell to satisfy a judgment.
Okay.
The court seized Cromwell's mowing machine and sold it for $38 to make up the difference between what Earp turned in and what Cromwell owed.
Oh.
Cromwell's suit claimed that Earp owed him $75, which was estimated value of the machine.
Damn, dude. His machine cost $75, but Earp sold his land and house for $75. That's crazy.
A mowing machine cost $38. Huh?
Earp, Edward Kennedy, and John Schoen were charged with stealing two horses on the 28th of March in 1871 from William Keyes while in the Indian country. Each of the value of $100, supposedly. No. April 6, Deputy U.S. Marshal J.G. Owens arrested Earp for the horse theft, and Commissioner James Churchill arraigned him on the 14th of April and set bail at $500. Damn. May 15th, an indictment was issued against Earp, Kennedy, and Schoen John Schoen's wife, Anna, claimed that Earp and Kennedy got her husband drunk and then threatened his life to persuade him to help. June 5th, Kennedy was acquitted while the case was remained against Earp and Schoen. Paying his bail, Wyatt fled before the case ever came to trial. Oh, wow.
Well, and nothing ever comes of that, by the way, guys.
Right.
Well, in 1871, Earp met Wild Bill Hickok in Kansas City, along with other Western legends, including Buffalo Bill Cody, Jack Gallagher, and Billy Dixon.
Damn.
Wyatt would later say of Wild Bill, Bill Hickok was regarded as the deadliest pistol shot alive, as well as being a man of great courage. The truth of certain stories of Bill's achievements may have been open to debate, but he had earned the respect paid to him.
Right. So regardless.
Wild Bill, he helped Wyatt to become a better buffalo hunter, where Wyatt met Bat Masterson in that process, and they on the open Kansas prairies.
And they
Like,
became
this is how you
best of friends.
you can make a buttload of money hunting these buffalo, son.
Yeah. Earp was listed in the Peoria City Directory during 1872 as a resident in the home of Jane Haspel, although Stewart and Lake took notes of a conversation with Earp years later, in which Earp claimed that he'd been hunting buffalo during the winter of 1871-1872. Peoria police raided Haspel's home in February of 1872, arresting 4 women, Wyatt and Morgan Earp and George Randall. Oh, the men were charged with keeping and being found in a house of ill fame.
Drug house, basically.
Right, and later fined $20 plus costs.
Oh.
Both Earps were arrested for the same crime again on the 11th of May, and each was fined $44.55.
It was a whorehouse, basically, I bet.
Right. The Peoria Daily National Democrat reported that Earp had been arrested once more on the 10th of September 1872. And this time he was aboard a floating brothel that he owned named the Beardstown Gunboat. A prostitute named Sally Heckle was arrested with him, and she called herself his wife. She was likely the 16-year-old daughter of Jane Haspel.
Oh, well, 16, huh, Wyatt?
Yeah.
All right, the newspaper wrote about the incident and said, some of the women are said to be good-looking, but all appear to be terribly depraved.
Oh, wow.
John Walton, who was the skipper of the boat, and Wyatt Earp, the Peoria bummer, were each fined $43.15. Sarah Earp, alias Sally Heckle, calls herself the wife of Wyatt Earp.
Oh.
Well, by calling Earp the Peoria bummer, the newspaper was putting him in a class of contemptible loafers who impose on hardworking citizens, a beggar, and worse than tramps.
Oh.
They were men of poor character who were chronic lawbreakers, and Peoria constables probably considered him to be a pimp as well. Then he didn't have a good reputation right now, guys.
Oh, not looking good for him, huh? August 1873 found Wyatt in Ellsworth, Kansas. It was here that the legend of Wyatt Earp began.
Yes, sir.
Ellsworth, a railhead where huge herds of cattle were driven north from Texas, was wild with drunken cowboys, 2 of which were Billy and Ben Thompson.
Oh, Billy and Ben.
Lethal gunmen who would rather resort to gunplay than talk out any argument. Wyatt heard of the 2 killers and chose not to play at the same tables as them.
Why would you?
Right. But before
They're
long,
unpredictable.
Before long, he got caught up with them on the 15th of August, 1873. While Earp was standing across the street from Brendan's saloon, he heard the sounds of an argument coming from the gambling house. The Thompsons had started a dispute with 2 other gamblers named John Sterling and Jack Marco, which was a local lawman. The disturbance soon brought Sheriffs Chauncey B. Whitney and 2 deputies to the scene. Whoa, what's going to happen?
Well, Sterling and Marco charged at the Thompsons, guns blazing,
Ooh.
but Ben Thompson drove him off with a volley of shots.
Damn.
Then Billy, who was a homicidal maniac and hopeless alcoholic, turned his gun on Sheriff Whitney,
Oh, no.
who prior to this had been a drinking companion and friend of the 2 brothers. At point-blank range, he shot the sheriff down.
Son of a bitch.
Wyatt at first watched the events without interfering as he saw Ellsworth Mayor James Miller enter the saloon, and he demanded Thompson surrender his guns. When he refused, Miller went in search of Whitney's deputies, who had inexplicably disappeared from the scene after the sheriff was shot.
Wow.
They said, fuck this.
They're gone. Damn, dismayed when Wyatt spotted the 2 deputies cowering on the sidelines, he remarked to the passing Mayor Miller, "It's none of my business, but if it was me, I'd get me a gun and arrest Ben Thompson or kill him." Miller then tore the badge off of Deputy Norton's chest and walking back to Earp said, "I'll make it your business." Wow.
Classic case of putting your foot in your mouth there.
Right. Wyatt watched stunned as Ben Thompson swaggered out of the saloon and mounted his horse as brother Billy waved him goodbye. "What kind of town is this?" he snapped at the deputies and mayor, who now stood meekly across the square. So Wyatt's pissed.
Old borrowing a pair of 6-shooters, he followed Ben Thompson, who was now about a block away. When he caught up with him, he demanded that he throw down his gun. Thompson, who knew of Earp, complied, and Wyatt marched him to jail. Wow. How do you know of Earp? Earp hadn't done shit.
Right. Wow.
Well, Ben Thompson was fined $25 for disturbing the peace, and a warrant for murder was issued for his brother Bill. So impressed was Mayor Miller that he offered Wyatt the job of town marshal at $125 a month. Damn.
Yeah.
But Earp declined, handed Miller back the badge, and saying he intended to go into the cattle business with his brothers. Ben Thompson, who would later turn lawman himself, would say to Bat Masterson in subsequent years that he had a powerful hunch that Wyatt would have killed him if he hadn't thrown down his gun.
Yeah.
The story of how Earp had backed down Ben Thompson soon spread up and down the Chisholm Trail, and the Wyatt Earp legend was born.
Oh, man. Thanks to old Ben Thompson.
Dude, it's crazy. Like, word about stuff like this travels faster than mail did.
Right.
Like, literally. It's like crazy.
Early 1874, Earp and Sally moved to the growing cow town of Wichita, where his brother James ran a brothel. Oh,
Jeez.
shit. Stay away from those, buddy. Local arrest records show that Sally and James's wife, Nellie Ketchum, they call her Bessie, operated a brothel there from early 1874 to mid of 1876. Wyatt may have been a pimp, but historian Robert Gary L. Roberts believes that he was more likely an enforcer or a bouncer for the brothel.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
When the Kansas State Census was completed in June of 1875, Sally was no longer living with Wyatt, James, and Bessie.
Oh, a little trouble in the relationship, huh?
Right.
Wichita was a railroad terminal and a destination for cattle drives from Texas. The town would fill with drunken, armed cowboys celebrating the end of their long journey when the cattle drives arrived, and the lawmen were kept busy. When the cattle drives ended and the cowboys left, Earp searched for something else to do.
Okay.
The Wichita City Eagle reported October 29, 1874, they had helped an off-duty police officer find thieves who had stolen a man's wagon.
Awesome.
Earp officially joined the Wichita Marshal's office April 21st, 1875, after the election of Mike Meeker as city marshal, or police chief, whatever one you want to believe.
Right.
He was making $100 per month. He also dealt faro at the Long Branch Saloon.
Nice.
In late 1875, the Wichita Beacon published this story. On last Wednesday, December 8th, policeman Earp found a stranger lying near a bridge in a drunken stupor. He took him to the cooler found in the neighborhood of $500 on his person.
Oh.
He was taken next morning before his honor, the police judge, paid his fine for his fun like a little man, and went on his way rejoicing. He may congratulate himself that his lines, while he was drunk, were cast in such a pleasant place as Wichita, as there are but a few other places where that $500 bankroll would have been heard from.
Right.
The integrity of our police force has never been seriously questioned.
Oh, wow.
Meaning, he had $500, and they're like, any other police force would have stole it from him, but
Yep.
Wyatt Earp's a good guy,
Right.
supposedly.
Right. Earp, he was embarrassed on the 9th of January, 1876, though. He was sitting with friends in the back room of Custom House Saloon, and his single-action revolver fell out of his holster and discharged when the hammer hit the floor. Oh, man. The ball passed through his coat, struck the north wall, then glanced off and passed out through the ceiling.
Damn.
Dude, that could have... Wow.
Could have killed somebody, and he would have been done for. The legend would have stopped right there.
Wow. He persuaded biographer Stuart N. Lake years later to omit it from his book, Wyatt Earp, Frontier Marshal. Earp's stint as Wichita deputy came to a sudden end on the 2nd of April, 1876, when former Marshal Bill Smith accused him of using his office to help hire his brothers as lawmen. Why not? Earp beat Smith in a fistfight and was fined $30.
No.
The local newspaper reported, "It is but justice to Earp to say that he has made an excellent officer." Meager won that election, but the city council voted against rehiring Earp. His brother James opened a brothel in Dodge City, and Earp followed.
He said, all right, let's go, James. Well, in Dodge City, after 1875, it became a major terminal for cattle drives as well, which came from Texas along the Chisholm Trail.
Right.
Earp was appointed assistant marshal in Dodge City under Marshal Lawrence Dager around May of 1876, and he spent the winter of 76-77 in the gold rush boom town of Deadwood in the Dakota Territory.
He did.
He and Morgan left Dodge for Deadwood September 9th, 1876 with a team of horses, but they arrived there to find all the land was already tied up in mining claims. Instead of gambling while he was there in Deadwood, he made a deal to buy all the wood that a local individual had cut, put his horses to work that winter hauling firewood into camp.
Right, so he made some money.
He made about $5,000 in profit, but was unable to file any mining claims, so, like I said, he returned to Dodge City in the spring.
That's a chunk, $5,000.
$5,000, dude, he's rich.
Damn. He joined the Dodge City Police in spring of 1877 at the request of Mayor James H. Kelly. Dodge City newspaper reported on July of 1878 that he'd been fined $1 for slapping a muscular prostitute named Frankie Bell,
Oh, wow.
who heaped epithets upon the unoffending head of Mr. Earp. to such an extent as to provide a slap from the ex-officer.
She was like, you stupid piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, Shh.
Right, what the fuck?
Frankie Bell, muscular prostitute.
Wow. Bell spent the night in jail and was fined $20, while Earp's fine was the legal minimum of $1. October 1877. Outlaw Dave Rudaball.
Yep.
He robbed a Santa Fe Railroad construction camp and fled south. Earp was given temporary commission as deputy U.S. Marshal and left Dodge City. He followed Rudaball over 400 miles through Fort Clark, Texas, where the newspaper reported his presence on the 22nd of January, 1878. And on to Fort Griffin, Texas, he went.
Damn, it's crazy. Breaking news. Legendary lawman at this time, but apparently Wyatt Earp is in town. Right. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, did you hear?
That was 2 weeks ago.
Right. He arrived at the frontier town of the Clear Fork of the Brazos River and went to the Beehive Saloon, the largest in town and owned by John Shancy, whom Earp had known since he was 21. Yeah, remember John?
John Shancy.
Shancy told Earp that Rudaball had passed through town earlier in the week, but he didn't know where he was headed. Shancy suggested that Earp go ask gambler Doc Holliday, who played cards with Rudaball. Doc told Earp that Rudaball was headed back into Kansas. After initially not wanting to talk to Doc or Earp because he didn't like lawman. May 11th, 1878, the Dodge newspapers reported Earp had returned. The Dodge City Times noted May 14th that he had been appointed assistant marshal for $75 a month.
Damn, he's taking pay cuts after pay cuts.
Right, he served under Charlie Bassett.
Oh, Charlie Bassett. Oh, Charlie Bassett. Doc Holliday also showed up in Dodge City with his common-law wife, Big Nose Kate.
Yeah, nerd.
During the summer of 1878, that's when he showed up. Ed Morrison and another 24 cowboys rode into Dodge that summer and shot up the town, galloping down Front Street, hooting, hollering, guns a-blazing, and shit like that. They entered a Long Branch saloon, vandalized and harassed the customers. Hearing the commotion, Earp burst through the front door to find numerous guns pointed at his face. Another version of the story has it that only 3 to 5 cowboys were there.
Oh, okay.
In both versions, though, Holliday was playing cards in the back, and he put his pistol at Morrison's head, forcing him and his men to disarm. Earp credited Holliday with saving his life that day. I am forever indebted to you, old Doc Holliday. And the two became very, very close friends from that moment on. While in Dodge City, Earp became acquainted with James and Bat Masterson, Luke Short, and prostitute Maddie Blaylock.
Oh, Maddie.
Who became his common-law wife until 1881.
What was it? Why is it not in here? Where Holliday put the gun up to the guy's head and was like, basically tell him you'll get your head blown off if you plan on using that or some shit like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what happened. Right. One often written about event was an 1878 showdown between Wyatt Earp and Clay Allison, who was a self-proclaimed shootist from New Mexico.
Right.
According to these stories, Allison planned to protest the treatment of his men by the Dodge City marshals and was willing to back his arguments up with gun smoke.
Uh-oh.
The Dodge City lawmen had gained a reputation for being hand-on with cattle herders, but stories circulating that cattlemen had been robbed, shot, and beaten over the head with revolvers.
Hey.
Now, George Hoyt, who had at one time worked for Clay Allison, had been shot to death while shooting a pistol in the air in the streets of Dodge City. You don't fuck around in Dodge City, man.
Right. I mean, just stupidity. There are several versions of this story of the showdown.
Well, of course there would be.
Some say Allison and his men terrorized Dodge City, while Wyatt Earp and Bat Madison fled in fear. Others say that Wyatt Earp pressured Allison into leaving, and yet others say that Allison was talked into leaving by a saloon keeper and another cattleman, with little or no contact with Wyatt Earp at all. In any case, there is no evidence of any serious altercation ever happening. Historians basically surmise that Allison might have come to Dodge City looking for trouble, but nothing happened.
Didn't find it.
While Allison and his men went from saloon to saloon, fortifying themselves with whiskey, Earp and his marshals began to assemble their forces. But in the end, Dick McNulty, owner of the large cattle outfit, and Chalk Beeson, co-owner of Long Branch Saloon, they intervened on behalf of the town, talking the gang into giving up their guns.
So you don't want to do this, man. These lawmen don't fuck around here.
Like, hey, man, just come on, bud.
Yeah, well, no, Dodge City had been a frontier cow town for several years, but by 1879 it had begun to settle down. Virgil Earp was the town constable in Prescott, Arizona territory, and he wrote to Wyatt about the opportunities in the silver mining boomtown of Tombstone. He later wrote, in 1879, Dodge was beginning to lose much of the snap which had given it a charm to the men of reckless blood.
Right.
And I decided to move to Tombstone, which was just building up a reputation. He just wants some action.
Right.
Earp resigned from the Dodge City Police September 9th, 1879, and traveled to Las Vegas, New Mexico, with his common-law wife, Maddie, his brother Jim, and Jim's wife, Bessie.
Bessie?
There, they reunited with old Doc and his common-law wife, Big Nose Kate, and the 6 of them went on to Prescott, Arizona.
Yes, they did. They did that. Virgil, he was appointed Deputy U.S. Marshal for the Tombstone Mining District, 27th of November, 1879. This happened 3 days before they left for Tombstone by United States Marshal for the Arizona Territory, Crowley P. Day. Virgil was to operate out of Tombstone, some 280 miles from Prescott.
Jeez.
And his territory included the entire southeast area of Arizona Territory. Damn.
Jeez.
Wyatt, Virgil, and James Earp arrived in Tombstone with their wives on the 1st of December, 1879, while Doc Holliday remained in Prescott, where the gambling afforded better opportunities.
He said, I'm making too much money here in Prescott, boys.
Right.
Well, the city of Tombstone, founded March 5th, 1879, with about 100 people living in tents and a few shacks,
Right.
just like every other town. The Earps arrived 9 months later, December 1st, and it had already grown to about 1,000 residents.
Damn.
Wyatt brought horses and a buckboard wagon, which he planned to convert into a stagecoach, but he found 2 established stage lines already running.
Perfect.
He's always late to the ship.
Right.
He later said he made most of his money in Tombstone as a professional gambler.
Yeah, I had to.
The 3 Earps and Robert J. Winders filed a location notice on December 6, 1879 for the first north extension of the Mountain Maid mine.
Oh.
They also bought an interest in the Vizina mine and some water rights as well.
Got to have water rights. Wow. Jim, he worked as barkeep, but none of their other business interests proved fruitful. Wyatt, he was hired in April or May 1880 by Wells Fargo agent Fred Dodge as a shotgun messenger on a stagecoach when they transported Wells Fargo strong boxes. Late July of 1880, younger brother Morgan, he arrived, leaving his wife Lou in Temescal, California. Warren Earp moved to Tombstone as well. And then later, Doc Holliday said, you know what? It's time to leave Prescott. And that happened in September. He had $40,000 with his $1 million in today's money.
At least, right?
And he said, let's go, baby.
We're here now. Well, we all know what happens now. The outlaw Clanton gang had been running roughshod over the territory and immediately resented the Earps' arrival.
Right.
Old man Clanton, his sons Ike, Finn, and Billy, the McClory brothers, Frank and Tom, Curly Bill Brocious, John Ringo, and their followers lost no time in expressing their displeasure. The Clantons had long been involved in rustling cattle from Old Mexico, moving their plunder northward to their ranch on the San Pedro River. Keeping Cochise County Sheriff John Behan on their payroll, their operation was extremely successful until the arrival of the Earps.
Oh.
Wyatt wasn't spending all of his time working as he met Josephine Josie Marcus while in Tombstone.
Yes, he did.
The small 18-year-old woman, this dude's 30-something right now.
Right.
The small 18-year-old woman had arrived in Tombstone with a traveling theater troupe in 1879 prior to Wyatt's arrival. Well, she hooked up with Sheriff John Behan and stayed in Tombstone at this time as well. And that's another reason why Behan didn't like him.
Wow. However, shortly after Wyatt appeared on the scene, Sheriff Behan made the mistake of introducing Josie to Wyatt.
Yeah.
And the two instantly hit it off. The relationship between Wyatt and Maddie had continued to deteriorate.
Well, it's because she was high on fucking laudanum all the damn day.
Right. Exactly. It grew worse and worse and worse, that old addiction. Josie thought that Wyatt was the best-looking man in all of Tombstone, and she began to be seen with him almost every night at his faro table, while Maddie lingered at home, stumbling around drunk.
Right. I got a headache.
Behan refused to accept Josie's apologies and fell in deeper with the Clantons to thwart the Earps at every turn. He got a vendetta now.
Yep.
Now holding a personal grudge, he vowed to help the rustlers rid Tombstone of the bothersome Earp brothers as soon as possible. ASAP.
ASAP.
Stat.
So, when in July of 1880, John Behan offered him a job as deputy sheriff under Chief Marshal Fred White, he was suspicious.
You're right.
Wyatt finally came to the conclusion that the offer was designed to keep him too busy to guard the Wells Fargo stage, which would allow the Clantons access once again to this lucrative plunder. Wyatt accepted the job, but Behan's plan failed when Wyatt convinced Wells Fargo to hire his brother Morgan as the new guard in his place.
Yeah.
Their plan having been a bust, the Clantons were furious.
Damn right.
October 28, 1880, Tombstone Town Marshal Fred White, he attempted to break up a group of 5 late-night drunken revelers who were shooting at the moon on Allen Street.
Shooting at the moon.
Deputy Sheriff Earp was in Owen Saloon a block away, though unarmed. Morgan and Fred Dodge were in a cabin nearby.
Wyatt heard the shooting, ran to the scene. He borrowed a pistol from Fred Dodge and went to assist White. As he approached White, he saw White attempt to disarm Curly Bill Brocious, and then the gun discharged, striking White in the groin. Throughout the shooting, Earp was standing by a chimney that was struck repeatedly by gunfire.
Okay.
He buffaloed Brocious, knocking him down to the ground. Then he grabbed Brocious by the collar and told him to get up. Brocious asked, "What have I done?" Fred Dodge recalled in a letter he wrote to Stuart Lake in 1928 what he had witnessed. It said this: Wyatt's coolness and nerve never showed to be better advantage than they did that night. When Morg and I reached him, Wyatt was squatted on his heels besides Curly Bill and Fred Wyatt. Curly Bill's friends were pot shooting at him in the dark. The shooting was lively and slugs were hitting the chimney and cabin. In all of that racket, Wyatt's voice was even and quiet as usual.
I doubt that happened.
Right.
Well, Earp altered his story later on, telling John Flood Jr. that he did not see Brocious' pistol on the ground in the dark until afterward. The pistol contained 1 expended cartridge and 5 live rounds. Brocious waived a preliminary hearing so that his case could be transferred to Tucson District Court, and Virgil and Wyatt escorted him to Tucson to stand trial, possibly saving him from a lynching.
Right.
White, on the other hand, age 31, died of his wound 2 days later after his shooting.
Right in the thigh, huh?
Yeah. December 27th, 1880, Earp testified that White's shooting was accidental. Brocious expressed regret, saying he had not intended to shoot White. Gunsmith Jacob Gruber testified Brocious' single-action revolver was defective, allowing it to be discharged at half-cock.
Ooh.
A statement was introduced which White had made, stating that the shooting was accidental as well.
Okay.
The judge ruled that the shooting was accidental, and he released Curly Bill.
Look at that.
Bill, however, remained intensely angry about how Earp had pistol whipped him in front of everybody.
Right.
And now he's an enemy to the Earps as well.
Yeah, back then you do not get embarrassed.
Right.
In front of nobody. That's a death sentence. Wow. Meanwhile, one night while Doc was gambling at the Oriental Saloon, John Behan accused Doc of manipulating a fail game. He said, "You cheater." That's also one thing you don't do.
Right.
Is cheat or claim someone's cheating. Doc, never the one to back down, quickly challenged Behan, who retreated in haste. He's like, oh, shit. Behan's public embarrassment added more fuel to the fire. Well, he kind of did that to himself.
Right.
Through the early months of 1881, the Clantons continued to rustle cattle from Mexico, a crime that the Earp lawman could do nothing about.
What are you going to do?
Their hands were tied since castle rustling was officially a county matter, and John Behan was the county. The gap between the law and the outlaw faction grew wider and wider and wider, and the town divided into 2 camps. While most of Tombstone's citizens supported the Earps, the politically strong outlaw element, with Behan in control, supported the Clantons, which is not good.
Of course. In the meantime, Doc and Big Nose Kate continued to live together, but when Kate got drunk, they had serious arguments. Often her drunkenness would escalate to abuse, and finally, Doc had enough and threw her out.
Yeah, so get the hell out, woman.
Clantons used this separation to their advantage. When 4 masked robbers, most likely members of the Clantons, we don't know, robbed a stagecoach and killed the driver and passenger, Sheriff Behan found Kate on a drunken binge, berating Doc for throwing her out.
Right.
They convinced her to sign an affidavit saying that Doc was involved in the stagecoach robbery.
No.
Well, when Kate sobered up, she realized she messed up and immediately took back her statement, and Doc was so disgusted with her, he sent her on her way outside of town on a stagecoach. He said, "Get the hell out of here. I never want to see you again, woman."
Get away from me.
You son of a bitch.
Bitch. What actually happened was the mass robbers robbed the passengers and the strongbox, but they were recognized by their voices and language. They were identified as Deputy Sheriff Pete Spence, an alias for Elliot Larkin Ferguson, and Deputy Sheriff Frank Stillwell.
Yeah, these are deputy sheriffs, guys.
Right. Stillwell was fired a short while later as a deputy sheriff for Sheriff Behan. Wyatt and Virgil.
He was fired for county tax accounting irregularities, though, not for the robbery.
Right. Wyatt and Virgil Earp rode with the sheriff's posse to track the stage robbers. And Wyatt discovered an unusual boot heel print in the mud.
Oh, it's still there, huh?
Right. The posse checked with the shoemaker in Brisbane and found a matching heel that he had just removed from Stillwell's boot. Oh, wow. A further check of Bisbee Corral turned up both Spence and Stillwell, who were arrested by sheriff deputies Billy Breckenridge and Nagel.
All right. Well, Spence and Stillwell were arraigned on the robbery charges before Justice Wells Spicer. He set their bail at $7,000 each.
Who would have thought he would have got busted by a boot print?
A boot print, right. But he just went to the same... Well, the dude's an idiot. He went to go get his heel print changed.
Right.
Like, that wouldn't be the first place they would look. Well, they were then released after paying the bail, but they were rearrested by Virgil for the Bisbee robbery a month later, October 13th, which this is on the new federal charge of interfering with a mail carrier.
Oh, you can't do that.
The newspapers, however, reported that they had been arrested for a different stage robbery, which occurred October 8th near Contention City, Arizona.
All right.
Less than 2 weeks before the OK Corral shootout, and this final incident may have been misunderstood by the McLaurys.
Probably.
Events now moved rapidly toward a final showdown. Old Man Clanton, he was shot and killed by a band of vaqueros during a rustling attempt below the border.
Hey, you
His
guys know the
eldest
risk.
son, Ike, who rushed judgments, would prove fatal. He took the family reins. It was Old Man Canton. I mean, Old Man Canton was a dirtbag, but at least he probably had some sense. Like, we can't be just going all out and willy-nilly against these guys.
Wow. Also, in the heat of summer of 1881,
It did.
a fire swept the business district of Tombstone, and the citizens blamed Marshal Ben Sippy for not controlling the looting that followed.
Oh.
Virgil Earp, the senior deputy, was appointed marshal, a move that antagonized the already hostile Clantons.
Yeah.
They're like sons of bitch and Earps. And, of course, there was Josie, who continued to see Wyatt.
Fucking Anger and old Behan.
While she made all effort to remain apart from the bad blood churning between the factions, the sight of her riled Behan all over again. Wyatt and Virgil were still out of town for the Spence and Stillwell hearing when Frank McClory confronted Morgan Earp, telling him that McClorys would kill the Earps if they tried to arrest Spence, Stillwell, or the McClorys ever again. Mm-hmm. These threats would lead up to the infamous gunfight at the OK Corral. Murder charges being filed against the Earps and Holiday, further attacks on the Earps, and eventually the posse that set out on the Earp Vendetta ride.
It sure the hell did, and we'll have that next week. We shall have that next week, and we'll give a little bit more background leading up to it, because we could have gotten a little bit more in depth.
Right.
But, yeah, we'll get a little bit more background and some more detail in the events leading up to the shooting, and obviously the shooting and the afterwards. So that's be next week. That should be a good one. Can't wait for that. Everybody loves OK Corral and some violence. Context, our last, before we remastered this, our first one was like an hour and 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
And this one's probably going to be maybe 42 minutes or something like that. So that's all the bullshit clutter that got rid of from the first episode. So,
wow.
yeah.
Hey, what are you gonna do?
Whatever. You guys are here to hear the story. Not us, I guess. But
We were rooks, man.
we're rooks. So, yeah. We'll be back next week for the OK Corral. And then, yeah, we'll probably do our Mafia and Hell's Angels. And then do the remastered again. But I don't know.
We got serial killer somewhere in there.
All right, serial killer would be the week. Wait. We can't be next week.
Yeah, serial killers.
Next week would be serial killer.
Right.
No?
Yeah, we haven't done serial killers in months.
Right, but this would be released on the 16th. And then the serial killer would only be the 20... maybe it would be. I don't know. I don't really want to do 4 parts. It won't take 4 months to do 4 parts. So I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll short it
up. So either or, keep it here on the podcast version, episode 200 officially right here on the podcast episode. Or YouTube, where you can get all of our other podcasts at the same time. Our Civil War podcast just officially ended. Well, it's going to end with this next episode that we're going to put out after this one. And then coming in January, we'll be starting profiles on Grant, Jefferson Davis, Lincoln, all the guys involved in the Civil War, just like you see here. We're doing with Wyatt Earp. It'll be like that, but with Civil War guys. So go to YouTube for all that together, and we shall see you next week for, I guess we're doing a serial killer. We don't know, though. So we'll be back.
Right.
This is about the Michiganders with
Bang dang.